Hi, my name is Elizabeth, and I have lost 90 pounds over the past 12 months with the help of a GLP-1. If you are someone who's just starting GLP-1, or maybe you're only interested at this point, or maybe you already are taking one and you're looking for some support, but you're also looking for a way to do this and use it as a tool in a way to not only lose weight on the scale, but to gain strength, to gain more health, and really do it in a sustainable and holistic way, then I would love to have you join me. So a little bit about me. I have always struggled on and off with my weight. I've always been aware that my body has been larger, and it's been something that I have been told. It is something that has been ingrained in my psyche since I was a very little girl. I remember when I was a little girl, my mom was always chronically dieting. So if there were Nutrisystem packs of food on the dining room table, I would be, sneaking them and eating them. And I really grew up in a family where there was a lot of that yo-yo dieting. So from a very young age, I kind of thought that was a normal way of, behaving in the world. And fast forward, as I got older, I was very acutely aware that I was, the biggest of my classmates. I was always uncomfortable. When we would go swimming at the pool, I would wear board shorts because I was uncomfortable with my thighs being larger. So that started incredibly young. And of course, as I got older, it turned into Weight Watchers. I went to Curbs for a while. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it was like a circuit training workout for women. And it was definitely the youngest one there, but nevertheless. And it just turned into this long journey of losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, and never quite feeling like I had figured it out, and never quite feeling like I'd gotten to the point that I wanted to get to. As I got older, I started doing a lot of the emotional healing work that I felt like I needed to do in order to come to terms with why I was eating emotionally and treating my body in a different way. And I did a lot of that work in my 20s, and it led me to go to life coaching school. Not only did that help me prepare skills to be able to coach others, but it really forced me to do some inner work on myself for a lot of different reasons. And so when I finished life coaching school, I felt like I was in a really a much healthier place with my body and with food. I still had weight to lose, but it felt like I was on the right path. So I started coaching women, and my focus with them was with body image issues and emotional eating. That was incredibly rewarding. It was also incredibly healing for me because I had just gone through that journey and was still working through a lot of the pieces. So to be able to help others on their journey was something that I really loved doing. As I was doing that, I ended up meeting my husband, and at that point, I was really confident in my body. I wasn't dieting at that point. I felt like I was able to intuitively eat, and I had lost a lot of weight. I was able to maintain that weight, and I felt finally in a place where I was confident in my body. I was around a size 6 at that time, and the impulsivity and the nagging relationship around food had quieted down. Unfortunately, it hadn't gone away forever, but it had quieted down at that point. Excuse me. So, all that to say, my husband and I met, we ended up getting married, we got pregnant on our honeymoon, and at that point I decided that I wanted to stop working and stay at home with my baby. So during my pregnancy, I ended up gaining about 50 pounds. I gained quite a bit of weight during my first pregnancy. And after I had my son, I struggled with some pretty severe postpartum depression. I was put on some medication to help with that, and I ended up gaining a lot more weight. I honestly don't know how much because I would not step on a scale. I was really, really heavy and uncomfortable, and I was ashamed to step on the scale. I think there was a part of me that didn't want to know what the number was. And so I remember embarking on keto to try to get the baby weight off. I remember waking up at 4:30 in the morning and so I could get to Orange Theory and do my HIIT workouts every day. I really was trying to do whatever I could. And I did lose some of that weight, but it certainly was not even close to where I was when I got married. So we embark on, motherhood and life, and I just can't quite seem to lose the weight. About 3 years later, I had my daughter, and during that pregnancy, I gained, I think, 18 pounds. So I did not gain a lot of weight. I was playing tennis multiple hours a day. I was watching what I was eating. Because I had started that pregnancy already significantly higher than when I had my son. So all that to say, my weight stayed up after having kids. It was always much higher. I would say around 50 to 60, maybe even 70 pounds higher than before I had children. And that was hard. That definitely took a toll on my self-esteem. It impacted, I think, the way that I parented. I remember not wanting to go to the beach or to the pool because I was so self-conscious of the way that my body looked. And that was tough. That was not how I envisioned being a mother. That is not how I envisioned parenting looking like for me. And it definitely took a toll. So the next 5 years, because we did wait quite a while to have our third child, it was a lot of the same. It was going through different diets, going through different workouts. If it was a HIIT workout, if it was strength training, I would do it. I would do whatever I could. I would do microbiome diets. I would do 21-day fix. Keto, Weight Watchers, you name it. And I was willing to try it just to do anything to feel better in my body and lose the weight that I had gained. And there came a point where I remember looking in the mirror and I just wanted to cry. I could not recognize the puffy face that was looking back at me. I could not recognize the lifelessness in the eyes that were looking back at me. And I just hated looking in a mirror. I despised it. I would sometimes look and I would just tear up and start crying. I remember feeling ashamed. I remember feeling sorry that my husband had to look at my body and look at me like this. Never once did he ever say anything. He has loved me at every single weight that I've been. It was all coming from inside, but I just remember feeling so embarrassed and so ashamed. And there was this voice in my head that said, you had figured this out. You had done this. You had gotten there, and now you messed it all up. You had babies, and your body is all messed up now. And that was really, really hard for me. That was incredibly embarrassing and shameful. And I still hold some of that with me today. And it's something that I'm working on releasing. But it was really hard. And I know there are so many people who probably feel the same way. And we shouldn't need to feel that way. We shouldn't look in the mirror and feel ashamed of what we're seeing. And unfortunately, that is the case for some people. But it doesn't have to be. It does not have to be the case. So after years of dieting and maybe losing 10 to 15 pounds, but never really getting over that hump, I kind of just said to myself, you know what? Maybe this is it. Maybe I'm just meant to be an overweight mom. Maybe it's in my genetics that I can't get it off after kids. My hormones have probably shifted. It's just something I'm going to have to live with. I'm destined to be unfit and overweight as a mother. And that's my lot in life. I still worked out very consistently. I still ate as healthy as I, could. And maybe I was meant to need a bigger body. And that was where I was at. I kind of had come to terms with that. But it was a lot about working on loving my body where it was and treating it with love and respect as it was. So, like I said, I was always been very consistent in my workouts. I just never really saw much of a difference in my body when I was doing those things. But I knew it was good for my health, so I continued to do them, regardless of what the number said on the scale. And Flash forward, we end up deciding to have a third baby. We said, okay, we want to have a family of 5. We thought we were done with 2, but we changed our minds, and I'm so glad we changed our minds because our baby girl has rounded out our family beautifully. But at that point, I had heard about GLP-1s. GLP-1s were out in the media. I had some friends who were taking them, and I had heard about them. I was skeptical. I am someone who I don't really even like to take Advil. I do like to keep things more natural and more holistic. So the thought of taking a shot every week to help your body lose weight, I wasn't interested at that point in time. I think I had still this prideful voice in my head of, you can do it on your own. Like, just keep on plugging away. Maybe at some point your body will start to respond the way you want it to. But yeah, so I knew about them, but it was not something I was interested in. So I got pregnant with my 3rd child, and after I had her, I don't know if it was the heaviest I've ever been, but it was incredibly heavy. And looking back at those photos of after I had her, I don't even know how my skin was holding my body. I looked like a balloon. I was so puffy. And so after I was done breastfeeding her, I decided I wanted to talk to my doctor about what it could possibly look like for me to go on a GLP-1 and if it was something that she would recommend. So I sat down with her, we spoke about it, and she said that this, based on my weight, my blood markers were all healthy and normal, but based on my weight, she said, yes, I think this is something that might be worth trying. So she prescribed me Zepbound, which is the brand name of Tirzepatide. And a few days later, on my doorstep, my little box of medication arrived with my vials. And I remember I didn't take it the first day I got it because I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And the next day, I FaceTimed with my doctor, and she walked me through how to do my very first shot. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was February 14th. I remember it very clearly. And she walked me through it, and I took my very first shot. And when I tell you that almost immediately I felt a difference, I am not joking. I had prepped some chicken noodle soup earlier that day that I was planning on having for dinner. I sat down for dinner maybe around 5 o'clock, and I remember taking a few bites, and I was done. My body was just done. There was no back and forth of, well, maybe I shouldn't eat anymore, but I want to eat anymore. That push and pull that can happen, that would happen with basically every food that I ate previous to this, was gone. The voice was gone. My body knew that it was just not hungry for food right now, and it was done. And I could so easily push it aside. And I remember later that night, I woke up in the middle of the night in my sleep, and I felt this calmness come over my body, but also my stomach. It was the weirdest thing to experience, and it was I can't even really describe it, but I just remember in that moment thinking, oh, okay, something is happening. There was no mental desire to eat. I can't, it's the weirdest thing. And if you've taken them, maybe you've had a similar experience, but it was really wild. And the next day it continued. The voice that was that compulsive voice of what should I be eating next? I shouldn't be eating that, but I really want to eat that. Okay, well, I keep thinking, I passed those, cookies on the counter, and I would be thinking about them all day long. No, I'm forcing myself not to eat them, but at some point, maybe I would go eat one. That voice had disappeared, and that voice hasn't come back, and it's been amazing. I'll certainly talk more about how the GLP-1s have been a huge impact on my life in another video, but that's just a little snippet of kind of my background and what GLP-1s have done for me. As I said, I've lost 90 pounds in the past 12 months, which is wild that my 1-year anniversary is just around the corner. And because I've experienced such a profound shift in my body and in my health, I feel inspired to share this with others and also to share a perspective coming from a place of really focusing on the strength training and the muscle preservation and the nutrition piece of it and the mindset piece of it. And I really think in order for this to be used as a tool in our toolbox to create a holistic picture of health for ourselves, we have to be implementing these other pieces. And that's something that I am dedicated to in my own life, and it's something that I want to be able to share with others. So if you are just starting a GLP-1, if you are curious about starting GLP-1, if you're nervous about what it could look like, and you want to see what it could possibly look like for you on the other side in a way that not only helps you lose weight, but helps you preserve and improve your health, then I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, follow along, and be a part of this community that I want to build for all of us who have been struggling, who have struggled, and want to come out on the other side bigger and better and brighter than ever before. If you enjoyed this video and it resonated with you, I would love it if you would like and subscribe to my channel. Like I said, this is my very first YouTube video, and I'm excited to create more, to share my journey and share insight and knowledge and guidance for those who are just starting on their journey. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.